4 issues that you see in front of you. We will share these points between us. I'm just starting the conversation. So, for example, when 2 days ago, wasn't it? It just seems like a long time ago. I put up this diagram to say that maybe we should not necessarily change our terminology, but think about how we describe what we do, particularly for different audiences. And I think this is important for messages. If you want to get the message across to the right people, we need to use the right language. I'm not saying that sport or physical activity or exercise is right or wrong, but let's get the terminology that's most appropriate. And a lot of people then said that one of the big barriers to participation is time. And actually that's quite an interesting one. If you ask people why they do not do sport or physical activity, time will always be the #1 stated reason. I actually think that is not enough information for us, because most people do have the time if they want to use their time in that way. So yes, we're busy, but that doesn't mean we do not have 30 minutes or more in a day to do something different. We do. We all do. But we choose to allocate our time in a different way. So this terminology that time is the problem, actually it's not. It's the allocation of time is the problem, and let's try to help people see that sport and physical activity is the best use of their time. And the third point is that the long-running issue that we've raised this week about making things fun and enjoyable. And the only thing I will say about that in terms of terminology is that we do physical activity for enjoyment, but what is it we enjoy about it? Is it the social side, the physical health side, the fitness, the skill development, the winning and the losing, whatever? So that again, the word enjoyment can mean lots of different things. So my point about health is, and I picked up some of these issues from what I heard at the conference, is that physical activity is really much more about for the wider social good and not just for our individual health. And I really liked that message. I think that's almost lifted from somebody's talk, as is the second one. It's about lifespan versus health span. And it's about quality of life, not just about length of life. And I totally agree with that. And to come back to this issue about enjoyment and fun, that's so important. It's about these positive feelings from physical activity, what we call affect, your affective reaction. And that was reported in one of those polls that we had through our online voting. So I think it was supported by you. Let me say something about strategies that came through to us in the conference. Now here's a controversial point. Mega sports events, large sports events, motivate people to be physically active. Do they? Do they? My understanding, and the IIR is much more expert on this than I am, is that that's quite a challenging thing to attain. And so the second point that Keith George mentioned in his House of Commons debate was that we really need evidence-based interventions. So if we need these things to work, we need the evidence more than just enthusiasm. Of course we need enthusiasm as well. And so we move on to these connections that people were talking about. The partnerships are essential. Making stakeholders talk to each other, building bridges, not walls. I think that was another one of Keith's statements. And that leads me into this final point on this slide, which is something that we've tried to do a little bit more of now in our work, which is what we call co-production. So if you want to do an intervention that changes people's involvement in sport and physical activity, get them in and talk to them. Don't just tell them what you're going to do. This is co-production. We work together to get the right solutions. Some people take this a step further with what's called citizen science. So we get the people who we're trying to target to collect data themselves, take photographs, talk to us, write things down, tell us what we should do differently. So it's all about co-production, getting more feasible and acceptable ways of changing behavior. We know a lot, but so do the people we're working with. Let's hear their expertise as well. So a couple of phrases here from the conference. I can't remember exactly who said them, but bring sports to the people. Don't expect them just to come to us. Explain, listen, and convince. That's a nice phrase as well. Listen as well as explain. Yeah.
Okay, I'm very, when I speak, it's very hard to stand still, so I might move a little bit. Just a bit of physical exercise in like really low intensity. But I have a privilege of speaking a little bit of some examples teased out from this conference, just, taking the opportunity that, this conference is held in Japan. So based around the strategies that has come out from this conference, if I could tease out some of the strategies that has been taking place in Japan, is because you heard, but Japanese life expectancy is 84 years old. So how many years I have to live, I don't know. But it's super aging society. So strategically, aging society itself does have kind of negative connotation itself. So strategically, the government and also the community level, their language has changed around as a super aging society as more positive terminology. So the national policy and the strategy has been changed around, but what has come out from, particularly from the Japanese Sport Commissioner, Daiichi Suzuki's presentation, was that there is a momentum, which is a mega event. So it's really about global influence onto the national level of strategy, down to very personal level. Whether the personal level bottom up, whether it's working or not, is another matter, but there is a momentum in Japan in terms of strategic planning. I thought it was very interesting that a couple of sessions, many have talked about we should use the influencers, whether they are role model athletes, whether they're the community leaders, whether they are the really, children, that they could be the influencers. But particularly in the case of Japan, it's about whether we can make a good connections between, where should I start, like the practitioners. Practitioners are a wide range of kind of definitions, but whether we can connect it, I'm the practitioner to start with, well, I have a cat with a researcher at the same time, and I work with the government, for example. But whether we have that connectivity working is, I think, that's strategically very important, whether or not our policy, our programs, like any project areas can be worked or not. But this is very strategic thinking, that we should change the terminology, everyday life, every language. We should be more conscientious of the terminologies that we use in our family level or at the very national level of strategic policy. So this came out, I kind of summarized it, but came out from the conference that language should be sexy. Don't take it wrong. It needs to be kind of appealing to the people, appealing to your heart, the very personal level, and it's relatable. So that's something that in a strategic thinking in Japan, that's something that I way forward in the future.
Is this on? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jan. There's some really important points, making it relatable and getting those important issues, I think, to be accepted is part of that acceptability and feasibility thing. Just before I come on to this issue of complexity, let me make a serious point about the way I observe some sessions in this conference. And please don't take offense by this. This is trying to move the conference and our field along. Not enough women. We have... I hope some men were applauding there, by the way, as well as women. That's a serious point. So we must avoid what are known as manels. Do you know what manels are? It is male-only panels. Manels. Okay, so this is a serious point. I'm not trying to offend anybody. we are all moving forward and trying to make progress. In my university, we're working on the same issues. And gender equity in these kinds of meetings and in my university is for and by everybody, males and females. I'm going to move on to complexity as my last issue. I think it was Keith George. He's had 3 mentions now. I'm not going to mention his name again. He said that we have this complex set of issues around physical activity promotion within society. Population growth, aging, overcrowding, diet, sedentary lifestyles, and there are probably more. Somebody said that all cities, when it came to the Active Cities project, are different. There's no single recipe. And the Ljubljana example, congratulations Ljubljana, I thought that was a terrific, for me, case study, where they're linking not only physical activity development, but to environmental strategies and sustainability. What is my point here? It's about complexity. These things are complex. Let's not think we can solve it by just doing one thing, although we may try one thing, that's fine. But it will be part of a bigger picture. Do you remember this from my opening talk? This is the solution to obesity. Yeah, well, it's complex, and I won't go into the detail of it, but it is complex. And all of this is evidence-based. This is not a diagram just for fun. So complexity is important, and we need to understand it in order to make progress, but eventually, you know, we use it to make progress, as Yaya will conclude, I think.
So I know that I want you to start dinner, but you know, straw that brain burns my brain. Like I felt like my brain stopped when I saw that complexity brain chart. But you saw in the video just a few minutes ago, you know, from today, you know, whoever participated in this undokai, you know, we know the theme about tradition and innovation for this conference this time. And I think I really felt from bottom of my heart that that was exactly this undokai sport festival, Japanese style sport festival, exactly showed that this combination between tradition and innovation. And given the fact that there are a lot of complexities in making sure that everybody liking about sport, liking about physical activity and play, I think that this sport festival, I hope you agree with me, like whoever there in this morning, that I think you had really have fun. You know, we know that there are a lot of I hope you did have fun, yes? So, I think this picture really shows how fun you had. So the last word, really, tradition, innovation, even if there are brains that needs to be really complex, it needs to be always keep simple and have fun. And the very last word, if you have time, please be encouraged to see this, what you have written here. What do you cherish about sport? What is the true value that you have in your heart in sport? It is you who wrote before or after that you have participated in Undokai Japanese Sport Festival this morning. The kids wrote, you wrote, everybody's message here. Everybody's message is important, I think. And that's something that we should think about as a longer term perspective, that we just keep it simple. You have your heart, everybody does have heart, everybody does have fun, you know, from the little, you know, when you are little to even if you get older, etc. So this is our message, keep simple and fun. And thank you very much for your time.